Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Kelvin P. Ringgold, Prince of Positive and Oracle of Optimism, coming to you from sunny Liverpool, New York once again. And today's title, Perspective, Use It or Lose It, brought to you by none other than Mr. Richard Bach from his book, Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. You know, Illusions is one of the 3 books that changed my life. It's on my website. Check it out, intensitypositive.com reading list. And the only book that I have ever bought for the express purpose of giving it away. It's an amazing book. You should check it out. You know, we're up here on episode 41 or so. And if you started listening to me somewhere in the middle, or you're new to me altogether, you might be asking yourself, what's this guy all about? Why is he here? So let me help you with that just a little bit, because it's probably not always clear on my podcast. But I'm all about mastering your mindset. And you know what your mindset is, right? Your mindset is a set of rules that you use to run your life. Your mindset determines whether you think something is good or bad, right or wrong, possible or impossible. And it's just a set of beliefs, just the set of beliefs that you've accumulated over your lifetime, and they determine how you respond to life in general in any given situation. But here's the thing about mindset. It only does one of 2 things for you. It either empowers you to live a happy and fulfilling life, or it disempowers you from living a happy and fulfilling life. It either gives you power to act, or cripples you from acting, or proceeding, or going ahead, or getting it done, or whatever other set of words you want to put to that. It either gives you the power to move forward or stops you in your tracks. So my purpose here is to help people in general fine-tune their mindsets, because my mantra is when you master your mindset, you master your life. Because your whole life and all the facets of it is governed by the way you think. And once you master the way you think, your life will change. Now, way off in the corner here, I hear somebody saying, but we can't control the way we think. And my response to that is, yes, you can. And that's why I'm here. Welcome to the Intensely Positive Podcast with your host, Kelvin P. Ringgold. Preset your mindset to make every day count and make positivity your way of life. Are you ready?
Let's just do this.
Perspective. Use it or lose it. You know, a good friend of mine left Syracuse not too long ago for parts south. You know, go where it's warmer. I don't know why. Now, as soon as they left, I don't know what happened, but temperatures jumped up to like 60 and 70 here. The sky cleared up. All the snow melted. I don't know if that's their intent, but coincidentally, God, am I sorry to see him leave? No. Just kidding. Yes, no. They're unrelated, really, honestly. But at any rate, they went to, where they went to, and they had their child and enrolled them in school. And the first day that this kid is going to go to school, because up here in Syracuse, we're famous during the winter for 2-hour delays because it snows a lot sometimes. And where in some places, when it snows, it might cripple the city and they can't go anywhere and they got to be off for 3 or 4 days. In Syracuse, no, they just need enough people to stay off the road so they can get the crap off the road so you can go on and do what the rest of the things you got to do. So in a lot of snow situations, if we have a heavy snow that was, unexpected or late in the, late at night, early in the morning, we will have a 2-hour delay. And then the snowplows will go through and clean everything up. The people that get to school and shovel off the driveways and walkways so the kids don't fall down and have to slide into the classrooms and stuff like that. And then life will proceed as normal. So they went all the way down to wherever it was they went. And the first day of school, they have a 2-hour delay because of a tornado warning. Just between you and me, if I got to choose between a little bit of snow and ducking and dodging tornadoes and flying cows and stuff like that, I'm picking the snow. I'm just saying. Anyhow, I said to my friend when I found this out, "So, how's your son feel about tomatoes?" "So, how's your son feel about tornadoes?" And they said, "I don't know, but he sure does like 2-hour delays." And that, my friends, is perspective. Because things will happen to us in life, whether it's a 2-hour delay to go to school, whether it's a flat tire on the car, whether it's, name any set of circumstances, because if you're listening to this, you're probably been living for a while, more than, 3 or 4 months, because otherwise, most kids don't listen to my podcast at that age. But things have happened, and you have had a choice, whether you realize it or not, to determine what that thing meant to you and how it affected you. You choose what it means to you. And I forget which famous person said it, but you may not be able to choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you feel about it and how you interpret it. You may have heard a part of this story, but a little while ago, over a year ago, I had a brand new car. I had this car less than 30 days, as a matter of fact. And I'd gone to an event downtown that I participated in, actually, giving a workshop for a friend of mine on networking and stuff like that, if you can believe that. I don't know how to talk or meet people or anything like that. But on the way back, I ended up stopped behind this truck. It was late at night, 8:30, so it was kind of dark. The truck was kind of dark. I was sitting kind of low. I was directly behind this truck, and we were all stopped at a light. And in front of this truck, I saw someone in a little car decide to start backing up. At the same time, I noticed the backup lights on this truck turn on. And this truck started moving back. Matching the speed of the car in front of it, not realizing that there was a low-angled, dark-colored car behind them. And when he ran into me, or just before impact, I said to myself, "Oh, this is going to hurt." Unfortunately, I had no place to go because there was a car coming up behind me. So I just sat there and absorbed this crunch. Strangely enough, it wasn't near as loud and ugly and painful as I thought it was going to be. The airbag didn't deploy, and he was certainly moving at a good enough clip. I found out later that that's because the cars were built really, really well with all this crushed stuff under the hood and the grill, so it absorbs the impact instead of me. Yay, technology. Anyway, brand new car, under 30 days. I should have been really upset, but instead I was like, man, why am I not hurt? I wonder why the thing didn't go off. Let me go see what's going on with these people. And I get out of my car, and this man is livid. Not at me, per se, but he had a rough day, and he whispered off some things, and he started talking about stage 4 cancer, and now look what's happening with this. And my initial response in my head was, well, if you got to deflect me from being mad, that's not a bad way to do it. But let's just go out. But I was not angry. I was like, I was fine. My body, I had no pain. I had no jar. I had no jolt, nothing. This guy was visibly upset. And then they didn't want to give me their insurance information, which normally is a bad thing. So they're like, well, don't call the insurance company. We'd prefer you didn't call the insurance company because we just don't want to deal with that. And, that was fine. So I did, of course, what any red-blooded American would do. I took his business card because it turns out he was a business owner. And I said, okay, well, I will call you. He said, call me tomorrow. We'll work it out. We'll find out how much the damages are and we'll pay for it and just not get the insurance company involved. That's normally a red flag. And I had some friends help me go through all the red flags it actually represented from their lives, but I went with my gut anyway. So as it turns out, when I got to talk to them the next day and everybody was calmer, I found out one of the reasons he was having such a bad day. He had indeed just come from the hospital a little earlier getting chemo treatment for stage 4 colon cancer is what this guy had. He had gotten chemo treatment for that. After the chemo treatment in the afternoon, they decided to go visit his wife's mother. Because mom was suffering from a little Alzheimer's. I don't know if there's such a thing as a little Alzheimer's, but mom was suffering from that, as it turns out. And while they were there, they happened to notice that mom's husband was looking a little strange. Which turned out to be dad had just had a stroke. So they rushed dad to the hospital, got him to the hospital. And when they came across me waiting at that light on that street and backed up, they had just delivered dad or just left dad at the hospital after getting admitted for the stroke. They had the mom in the vehicle with them who was very upset because now she's upset because, if they hadn't taken her, that they wouldn't have been there and they wouldn't have had the accident. They're all upset. They're, I'm sure, waiting for me to blow a freaking gasket, which I did not. And did I mention that mom couldn't stay by herself? So they were taking mom home. So all this stuff had gone on with them this day. And here I am standing calm, collected, going, yep, I'll call you back. We'll work it out. It's okay. And I have never been so glad in my life, probably, that I was calm and cool and collected as that day, because the last thing they needed that day was somebody who was flying off the roof with all the stuff they had gone on. And later when I talked to them, they said, thank God it was you and not somebody else. But that's the way I react to things. I was fine. I was uninjured. My car was messed up a little bit. But actually, after we disconnected the cars, I didn't see a lot of damage, which also confused me. That's when I learned about that technology when I took it to the body shop. And as the way the story ended, their insurance company was fine. They ended up connecting it with the insurance company. The insurance company covered. By the time I made the appointment for my car at the collision place to go get it, the collision place already had the check from their insurance company on what he said the damages was going to be, and life just was smooth. But that was perspective also. Clearly, somebody was having a worse day than I was right then. And in the scheme of things, I had a smooth day, but when we all got done, he still had stage 4 cancer. Mom still had Alzheimer's. Dad was still in the hospital recovering from a stroke. So perspective, you get to use it or lose it. So what is this perspective thing anyway? I know that sounds like an elementary question, but really, there's 2 definitions in the dictionary, right? And one of them is the art of drawing solid objects on a 2-dimensional surface so as to give the right impression of their height, width, depth, and position in relation to each other when viewed from a particular point. And what does that mean? I always love that. You ever ask a little kid to draw a house on a piece of paper when they're young, and you get this square box thing? And maybe you get some points for the roof, but otherwise it's a flat, straight on picture when you don't see anything on the side. But you know that's not what a house is. You know that there's more to the house than just that front view with the crooked windows and that slanted roof that the kid puts on it, right? So perspective in drawing just means that you're going to draw that dude in such a way, you're going to turn it a little bit, you're going to slant the line something so you can see that there's more to it than what you just see with the naked eye when you're looking straight on it. It's not a real view unless you elevate yourself. But basically perspective is, looking at it from all the sides. I mean, I used to have a demonstration that I would do with a round children's ball. This particular one was clear, except right through the center, there was a disc right through the circumference that was a solid color. So depending on how you held the ball, if you held it up, because the outside was mostly clear plastic. So if you held it up directly with that disc side, perpendicular, all you saw was a blue disc. So looking at it, not seeing any reflections on the surface, it just looked like it was a blue disc. But when you turned it a little to the side, then the disc changed shapes. And you saw that there were different shapes. But depending on how you looked at that ball, you either saw a ball or a different shape or a flat disc. And rarely on any situation can you look at something straight on without considering all the other possibilities, without considering all the other angles and see the entire picture of that. And of course, the second definition is a particular attitude toward or a way of regarding something, a point of view, which really, when you start looking at that house diagram and the drawings that the architect put together, they add all that in. They add all the different sides. So when you look at it, you know how big it is, how tall it is, how wide it is, how deep it is, how thick the walls are. You know everything there is to know about that picture. And generally speaking, when something happens to you in life that's just point of moment, boom. You don't see all those sides. You don't see everything that's contributing to the moment that impacts you. Just like I didn't see everything that happened in the moment when that guy backed into my car. But having the perspective later made things a lot better. Or at least a lot more understandable. And I know you know that. I know you know that. But at the point of impact, when something just happens, we don't always have the forethought to think to all those angles. All we know is I just got hit in the face. Something's crazy. About 3 weeks ago, before this recording, my daughter was driving along the highway somewhere in Maryland with my baby grandson, and someone rear-ended them at a high rate of speed. A little while later, we saw the pictures of the car that hit them. And if you had seen that car first, you would have said, oh my God, who died in that accident? That was horrible. Look how crippled that is. And in fact, the people who hit them, the person, whoever rear-ended them, they went to the hospital. Their car was totaled. My daughter's car was totaled. But the perspective piece of that was my daughter is the one who called us and said, we're okay, but we just had an accident. Well, having her say that, obviously we knew she was okay, right? So that made life a lot better. But had we been told about the accident prior to that, our perspective would have been a whole lot different. So just to keep some things in mind, here are some questions, some thoughts you might have to help bring perspective into any situation. How many things happen in your life on a daily basis? When it happens, your mindset goes immediately to worst case scenario. When you got down to the facts, did it really get the worst case scenario? How often do you actually get the worst case scenario when you start thinking about something happening? How many times have you worried yourself into an anxiety over something that could happen but never actually did? Whether it's a car trip, whether it's a plane ride, whether it's grades on a test you're going to be taking. How many things in your life can you look back on right now and laugh uncontrollably now that it's over, but at the time you were scared to death? I got to tell you, I'm a Toastmaster, and half my stories that are as funny as heck right now were not funny at the time they happened. But now I can laugh at them, and life is wonderful. Hindsight is 20/20, is it not? Things happen to us every single day. Every day is a different challenge in most people's lives, right? But you've had obstacles in your life before. So how many obstacles have you ever had in your life? How many obstacles have you overcome in your entire life that you originally thought were insurmountable? Yet you got through them. You got through them. So when you look back over your life, you'll likely see that you are already an overcomer. You know how to handle stuff and get past it. It's almost never as bad as you think it is at the time it's happening. But the pictures we paint in our minds, the movies we play in our heads can paralyze us in the moment. If we don't remember the times we've already won. And if you look back on it, you've been winning all your life. Maybe not on the scale you wanted to win, but you've been winning because you're here to tell us about it today. But even with all of that, sometimes something's going to happen and we're going to look at it square in the face and panic because we forget how powerful and resourceful we really are. But here's a couple of things you can do. You can just remember these to help you get through it. And one of them is a world authority on these types of things. Christopher Robin. Remember him? Christopher Robin was telling Winnie the Pooh. Christopher Robbins was telling Winnie the Pooh something you need to remember for you. 1, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. And the first thing to do when something happens is not to panic. The first thing to do when something happens is to get quiet. I like to call it get neutral. You're in neutral. You're not fast. You're not slow. You're just neutral. It is what it is. And from that point, you can engage your memory of your past victories and activate that winner's imagination that helps you get through things. And right after you do that, the second thing to remember is realize it could always be worse. Whatever it is, there are very few tragedies I've heard about where one of the victims in the tragedy didn't say it could have been worse. And most of us don't get those huge tragedies. Most of us get much smaller tragedies. They just look bigger in our minds at the time. But regardless of what happens to you, the first thing to remember is it could always be worse. That way, you get to feel a little bit better because it's not worse. So after you take the Winnie the Pooh lesson, that's number 1, and then you realize it could have been worse, then the next thing you need to do is prime the pump. And you remember that. Probably you heard a Zig Ziglar talk about it sometime about priming the pump. And if you lived on a farm, I didn't live on a farm, but my grandmother didn't. My mother sent us off to visit her during the summer. And sometimes the water didn't always come up out of the ground. And we always had to pour water down the pump and start pumping it to create enough suction to bring water to the surface so we'd have good, clean water to drink. And it was work. We had to do it, but we had to summons up that water. So when we primed the pump in a situation that's tense for us, what we end up having to do is think about the skills and the talents and the strength that we've used to overcome past problems and obstacles. And remember, we still have those strengths. We still have those skills. And we probably have even more now than we did before. So prime the pump so you can know, yes, I have what it takes to overcome this problem, to manage this situation. And the next thing to remember, although it could have been worse, is it's probably not really as bad as we think it is right now anyway. Especially once you've processed those other 3 thought processes. And this 5th one I call reframing. Actually, a lot of people call it reframing. It's a point I've taken from other people and I've used a lot in my life. Just to help us get through the day, I interviewed a young lady, Jamie Lerner, on my last podcast. That's right, Jamie Lerner. episode 40 of the Intensely Positive Podcast. And I talked to Jamie about reframing, and one of the things that she said was, a lot of times when things happen, people take what's going on with them and they say, like, this is my life. And they equate their whole life to the event that's happening right now, if it's a bad thing particularly, or if it's unfortunate. But really, it's not your life. And if you look back over your life, there are times you've gotten through. So to understand that the thing that is happening to you right now is not your life, but just a point in your life that you can get past, then you can help to reframe this, which is to look at it in a new light. And to be honest, that might not happen in the thick of battle, as it were, for whatever you're going through. But when you've had a chance to get back and sit and think, like my daughter after the accident that she was in a few weeks ago, because what else could have happened? So when you have this event and you find out that you really were braver and tougher and smarter than you thought, and it really could have been worse, but it wasn't worse, and you summons all those past skills that you knew you had to overcome obstacles before, and you remember that it's never as bad as we think it is in the beginning. Then later, when you're sitting down to reframe this and look at it from different points of view, you can say things to yourself like, how can I make this work? How can I make this an advantage? What is the bright side of the situation? What is it that I have learned from this experience that can help me in my future life, can help benefit me or benefit someone else from what I've learned in this experience? You can take the time to reframe that. How are you a better person because of the way you handled it? Who did you help in the middle? Who else did you help get through it? And who knows, you may even have been a hero for that person. At that point, you can really take a look at the whole picture and add the sides to it and put in the right angles so that when you look at this problem or this event that happened in your life, you can see all the sides of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Oh yeah, and sometimes in life there's going to be some ugly, but it doesn't have to be all ugly. And as much of it as you can overcome, and as much of it as you can learn from and find a way to benefit others, it will improve your mindset to know that you can do other things, you can accomplish other things, you can win other battles, and you are more powerful than you've ever given yourself credit for. And you will realize at that moment that when you master your mindset, you really do master your life. We'll see you next time.
Wow, that was awesome.